I'm not going to be the one paying for it.
Wait, Kate. Hold on a minute. I've always supported you, Kate, haven't I? So, can't you just do me this favor? When your parents passed away, I never left and I was always by your side, supporting you.
Did you get close to me because you thought my parents were corporate executives and you could count on what I would inherit from them?
No, that's...
I see. So you were after the money from the beginning, huh?
Well, so what? What if I was? But that's not the only thing I was after. I also thought that you...
Was it fun for you? To have a wife who earns a lot for you?
That's not what I said.
Did you think that if you impregnated me quickly, that I won't run away from you?
Well, it's what I deserve, don't I? I've done everything for you. I've done everything you've asked, you know.
You've done everything I asked for? Oh, please. You did that for your own desires, wasn't it? Thank goodness I didn't get pregnant. My name is Kate. It has been 8 years since I got married to my husband, Harry. We don't have any kids at the moment, but this is what we always talked about, even before my husband and I got married. I have been working in a consulting company and I love my job. My husband has been saying that he wants kids, but it's not like he wants to raise the kids. Even though Harry says he wants kids, he could not seem to let go the perception that taking care of the kids are something what women do. And he would say that as if it's a normal thing, and he probably thought that I was supposed to raise our kids. I understand your feelings, Harry, but I have no intention of raising a baby yet.
Why?
Because I want to keep doing my job.
But I do think that a baby would need his or her mother's love.
Well, all children should grow up with love from not just by their mothers, but by everyone, right? But I can't do that right now, so I'm glad that you want to marry me. But if you want kids, it'll be a little complicated, but I think you should choose to be with someone else.
Someone else? I can't think of being with someone else than you.
I want to get married to you too, Harry, you know. But I just can't change my mind here. He seemed to take it very seriously, and the subject of kids came up several times after that.
After everything we discussed about having kids, I still want to marry you, Kate. I've come to think that as long as you're with me, I don't have to have kids.
I see.
Besides, there may come a time when you want to have kids, right?
Well, I don't want you to linger on to any hope like that. I can't really tell at the moment if I would or not, you know. We talked about the subject over and over, and then we got married. My parents and his parents agreed with our decision, and I think our marriage was going great. My husband and I first met in college. He joined the club I was in when he was a freshman, and I was a junior back then, and at the club we got to know each other and began to go out. We both loved movies, so we belonged to a movie critique club and had a lot of discussions. We often went to the movies together because we liked the same genres of movies. One day, my husband asked me to be his girlfriend. I also loved my husband and thought that if I were to get married, it would be to him. But you only live once. I didn't want to compromise too much in my marriage. I never told my husband about this, but what he said on "there may come a time in the future when I would like to have kids" was spot on. It's not that I don't want children. It's just that now is not the right time for me. I wanted to devote my time to work. But if I said that, I would just give hopes to my husband. I felt like I was tricking Harry if I married him by saying, maybe I will want a baby, and I knew I shouldn't do that. And now, we have been married for 8 years. We still don't have any kids yet. I was beginning to feel that I should focus on my job for 2 more years, build up my performance and skills, and then think about having kids. Of course, I didn't tell my husband about this. To give him hopes like this would be to belittle the conclusion he made 8 years ago after discussing about it and giving it a serious thought. For the past 8 years, our marriage had been really good. But then, one phone call would change my husband and my life forever. It was a call from the police. My parents had been involved in an accident and were rushed to the hospital. So I rushed to the hospital, but I couldn't make it in time as my parents passed away. When I had dinner at my parents' house a week before, they were both smiling cheerfully. And even 3 days ago, I was just on the phone with my mother. She sounded great. And yet, there they were, both of them, lying cold, right before my eyes. It was so difficult for me to accept what had happened to them. It was my husband who stood and supported me in my grief. After the funeral, even though Harry was a bit uncoordinated, he took care of the things around the house for me, who couldn't go to sleep because of my grief. My mother-in-law, Sarah, also rushed over and cooked us meals. Seeing this, I felt a little better knowing that I wasn't all alone. But this relationship would be destroyed because of what I would inherit from my parents. Money changes people. I never thought that this would actually happen to me in real life. During the week I was absent from work due to bereavement, I was able to live and eat well, with the support of my husband and Sarah. But I had a job that I had to go to. I couldn't just be in bed crying all day. So I got myself together and went to work. My coworkers and bosses welcomed me back to the company kindly. My direct boss even tried to reduce my workload, but this didn't help me at all. At the moment, I just wanted to get a lot of work done and forget about my grief and sadness. I asked my boss to increase the number of the cases which I could be in charge of. Thanks to this, I was exhausted from work, but my mind seemed to have calmed down. And then one day, my husband brought up the subject of my parents.
You know, I think it's time to start organizing your parents' things. It seems like things get a lot more difficult to handle after 3 months. I'm really sorry. I really didn't want to bring this topic up, you know. I can help you.
Oh yeah, you're right. I do have to do it.
I'll help you. You seem busy too, Kate.
It's okay. I want to do everything that I can for my parents. I mean, I couldn't even take care of them as their daughter. I want to at least make sure they're well taken care of in the end.
I see. All right, I understand. If it gets difficult for you, let me know, okay? I'll always help you out.
Thank you so much. I took my husband's advice and spent my day offs sorting out my parents' documents, assets, and their inheritance. As a result, my parents' inheritance came to be about $2 million. After that, I continued to spend my day offs cleaning up my parents' house and sorting through their belongings. I spent a long time cleaning up my parents' house, and it reminded me of many things. I spent my childhood years at this house, and I moved out of this house when I got married. My parents' house is filled with many memories. In the summer, we ate ice cream in the garden, and in the winter, we made snowmans with the snow. Remembering these things, tears began to well up again. I wish I could raise my kids here. I mumbled these words to myself. It was a moment where the thought of having kids had greatly changed in my mind. I won't hesitate anymore. I'll make sure to tell my husband about how I felt. I went home with this thought in mind, but as it turned out, my husband and I ended up divorcing without ever discussing about what I felt about having kids. When I returned home, my husband welcomed me back home.
Welcome home.
Thanks, I'm back home. You know...
Hey, your parents' inheritance and the money, it all was transferred to you today, right, Kate?
Excuse me?
Well, I mean, you were talking to someone who's from the bank the other day, right?
You were listening to the conversation?
Oh yeah, I could hear it, you know.
There's no way Harry could hear it. When I was on the phone, I was in my walk-in closet, which was in my study room at the time. I was picking out clothes when someone from the bank called me, and we were talking right then and there. So there was no way Harry could hear the conversation unless he actually came into my study room. Harry and I each have our own study rooms, and we usually hardly go into each other's studies. But if he heard my conversation, then that means that my husband was the only one who came into my study room at the time. Something feels wrong. I was feeling so happy just now.
It's planned that you'd inherit $2 million, right?
What? I didn't tell you about that, right?
Oh no, I saw a written memo which I found on the floor a few days ago.
He's lying. I did write it as a memo, but that memo was written on my schedule planner. So that means that Harry actually went through my stuff to see it. I didn't receive it yet.
Oh? Really?
Well, you see, I have a lot of work to do right now, so I don't have time to actually receive it.
I see.
My husband didn't ask any more questions other than that. But he seemed somewhat restless. Is it just me, or is Harry acting strange? It is not possible for Harry to be blinded by my parents' inheritance. He was the one who tenderly cared for me when I was grieving. Of course, that would never happen. That's what I kept on saying to myself. But the next day, what I had thought was completely different. Because Kate and her husband, John, came over and I found out their true nature. I'm home. Oh, welcome home, Kate. Oh, Sarah? And John too, you were all here? Yes, because today is a celebration. What are we celebrating for?
Oh, Mother, come on, wait a minute. I told you that Kate hasn't received the inheritance yet.
Oh? But isn't it already decided that she'll get it? If so, then that's good, right? What are you all talking about? Oh my God, Harry didn't tell you? We're going to rebuild our house. Huh? Oh, really? I'm sorry, I didn't hear about that. Oh, is that so? Well, it's okay. We'll be waiting for you to pay up. Huh? We're going to rebuild our house with your parents' inheritance. It seems like Sarah blurted out something that I hadn't ever heard. To begin with, both of my parents were working as executives of a company. Upon receiving the news of my parents' passing, my husband, who thought the inheritance will be a lot, told Sarah that he would rebuild the house and move in with them. And of course, he was planning to use my parents' inheritance money to rebuild his parents' house. You've got to be kidding me. Who would even go along with that ridiculous idea? I'm not going to be the one paying for it.
Wait, Kate, hold on a minute. I've always supported you, Kate, haven't I? So, can't you just do me this favor? When your parents passed away, I never left, and I was always by your side supporting you.
Did you get close to me because you thought my parents were corporate executives and you could count on what I would inherit from them?
No, that's not it.
I just remembered, Before we started to go out, you kept on asking me a lot about my parents, didn't you? What was that for?
No, that's...
I see. So you were after the money from the beginning, huh?
Well, so what? What if I was? But that's not the only thing I was after. I also thought that you...
Was it fun for you to have a wife who earns a lot for you?
That's not what I said.
Did you think that if you impregnated me quickly, that I won't run away from you?
Well, it's what I deserve, don't I? I've done everything for you. I've done everything you've asked,
You've done everything I asked for? Oh, please. You did that for your own desires, wasn't it? Thank goodness I didn't get pregnant. Hey, Kate, you do know that by not having kids, you're not taking care of us as your parents-in-laws, right? So, you should at least contribute and pay for our new house. No way. I have no obligations to do so, because I do not intend to continue our married life that I have with your son. What did you just say?
Oh, Mother, just stop it. I did get along with Kate for the money anyways. If we get a divorce, she'll be the one who'll be in trouble. Because I'll take half of what she owns anyways. Well, it's fine with me if we get a divorce. Getting half of what you own is much better anyways.
Is that so? Well then, can you just leave now since we're getting a divorce?
Huh? Why should I be the one to leave here?
Well, that's because I own this house and it's under my name. Oh, then are you going to pay for the rent? It costs about $3,500 per month, so can you handle that?
How dare you make fun of me? Of course I can pay that much.
Oh, I see then. With your monthly salary of $2,800, I didn't know you could afford this rent. Were you investing or something? Well then, I guess I should leave, huh?
Now, wait a minute. Actually, I wasn't really fond of this house from the beginning. So, I'll be the one leaving, but that's not because I can't pay the rent, okay?
Okay, if you say so. Well then, please kindly leave. It's unfortunate that half of what you own would be taken away in the end, Kate. Sarah said that to me while she looked down on me. But in any case, John, what was the point of you being here for? He was just silent the whole time. He never, ever said anything, so I really don't understand why he was there. After that, I expected that some things might go wrong with my divorce to Harry, so I hired a lawyer. And just as I expected, both Harry and Sarah was being a hassle throughout the whole divorce proceedings. Well, of course they'd act like that, because they never got my property or the inheritance from my parents. My husband thought that he could at least receive $1 million from the inheritance, but he had no idea that inheritance doesn't apply to common property. He really must be an idiot. But Harry did try to take the common properties away from me. And he even claimed for $100,000 for it. But this is where his father John came in. It turns out that John was so fed up with his wife and his son during that talk, and he was completely agreeing on the divorce and was also thinking of divorcing Laura. Laura desperately pleaded John not to leave her, and he said he wouldn't leave and divorce Laura on the condition that she would not receive any money from me. Laura, not wanting to get a divorce, desperately tried to persuade John, but in the end, she agreed to not receive anything from me. I'm glad you came in handy, John. I guess he wasn't being silent for nothing. Plus, John was the only one who contacted me to apologize. At that point, John promised me to keep both Harry and Sarah under his surveillance so that they wouldn't harass me, and he gave me his condolences to my parents. Since then, my husband and I got divorced and I was finally free. My ex-husband called me once to try to get back with me, but I ignored him. I had no obligations to help him as well. Harry and I have been living based on my earnings, and since then, John has been managing all his money, so I guess he won't have any freedom at all anymore. Harry and Sarah deserves what they got. I, on the other hand, decided to move out of the house and live back at my parents' house. And 4 years later, I remarried, and I am now pregnant. I am grateful to have a child, even though I am over 40 years old. I hope to be able to eat ice creams in the garden with my son. So, Harry was after Kate's money from the beginning. And saying things like how Harry wants a child makes it seem like he totally sees kids as a tool to get his own way. Harry for sure will not be able to lead a good life from now on. At any rate, I am cheering for Kate's new beginning. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video. My name is Jennifer. I am 32 years old and I work for a company. I have been married to my husband, Charles, and 3 years has passed already. Our marriage has been stuck in a rut over the years, and I get the feeling that our intimacy and feelings with each other are getting a little weaker compared to how it was when we just got married. But I would like to believe that we still love each other in one way or another. We do occasionally fight, but we celebrate each other's birthdays and the wedding anniversaries every year, and we are able to live together without any major issues. So perhaps we are gradually becoming more like a family than just a lovey-dovey married couple. For me, I didn't have that much problem with the relationship I had with my husband. But I had some issues with my relationship that I had with my mother-in-law, Laura. Laura was what you'd call a typical bullying the wife type of mother-in-law, and so she would pick on me and bully me, and I was the victim to her trap. Oh gosh, the meals that you cook, Jennifer, is not very tasty. I mean, it's really tasteless, and it's not that even good. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be more conscious about being healthy and making healthy meals, which is why I'm trying to cut back on salt as much as possible. Well, the other day, Charles told me that you don't make any fried meals that often. Is that right? When Charles stayed over at my house the other day, I made him fried foods and he was so happy. You know, Charles was saying that there was no fried food or any meals with fried food at all back at his house while he was eating what I cooked for him. You have to make what your husband wants, okay? Are you sure you're not just being really immature and saying things like how you're afraid of the oil when you fry the food? No, that's not what I mean at all. Well, I will try to make them from now on. The reason I don't make any fried foods is because my husband's numbers and the result of the annual medical checkup which he gets aren't really good numbers. And that's also another reason why I'm cutting back on salt. I'm trying to take really good care of my husband's health. But as his own mother, Laura's just interfering with what I'm trying to do. These thoughts came to my mind as I was really irritated by Laura and everything she says to me, but if I tried to say something like that to her, she would get really furious. So I had no choice but to reply without arguing back to Laura and just shrug it off. But even if I do that, Laura's bullying towards me didn't stop at all, and everything she said was mentally stressing me out. As a typical way for a mother-in-law to bully the wife, they would ask about the wife's pregnancy and if the wife has their grandchild or not. And well, Laura does the exact same thing and asks me if I got pregnant with her grandchild or not every time I see her. I thought she wouldn't go into that too much since my husband has an older brother, John, and him and his wife already has a child. But it didn't seem to matter at all, and she would be very nosy and always asks me, "Are you doing it properly to make a baby? Or you're not doing it at all?" Or say other annoying things like, "Why don't you go to clinic and try the infertility treatment?" My husband and I have decided to wait for a baby to come naturally. And well, to be honest, we can't really afford to have a baby at this time. In fact, just a few days ago, my husband quit his job because he said he was depressed. Charles has received a doctor's note and has been receiving unemployment benefits. But it doesn't change the fact that he is still unemployed. So having a baby is just a secondary concern for us. Since I am currently working, we are able to make ends meet for now. But with the rent, living expenses, and other expenses we have to pay, we have very little money saved up for our family. Despite that, Laura seems to visit us at our house often during the daytime because my husband is now at home, and they both go out to eat together or get food delivered to our house frequently. And it seems like my husband is paying for all of it. So, in other words, it is the same as if I was paying for the both of them to eat out or get food delivered from what I earned. No matter how much unemployment benefit my husband can receive from the government, it is only for a limited period of time, so we really can't afford to have a luxurious life. But neither my husband nor Laura understands this situation at all. A year passed in the blink of an eye, and my husband's unemployment benefits came to an end. During that time, my husband did not even try to look at postings for a new job or even try to do anything at all. Well, I can't really say it to Charles too strongly about this because he is depressed. So, I would say it really indirectly and nicely to my husband. "Why don't you look for a job?" But to this, he would say,
"I'm not ready yet."
But my husband is really energetic. I mean, he eats a lot and does no house chores or try to help around the house and plays video games all the time. And Laura would spoil my husband, telling him that he should rest until he's satisfied every time she sees him. The other day, Laura would just even blamed me about Charles's situation by saying, "It's your fault that my son hasn't recovered yet." From my point of view, my husband is taking too much time off, and I really don't deserve to be blamed for that. Then, something happened that further escalated for the worse in our marriage. It all started when my father-in-law, Jack, became ill and passed away. Until then, Laura had been living together with Jack, but with his passing, she was left all alone. So now, she came up with the idea of living together with either our family or John's family. John and I had a bad feeling that Laura would come up with this idea when we were at Jack's funeral. At the funeral, Laura was very quiet, which was very unusual of her. John and his wife had often been criticized by Laura as well, and they were concerned about how quiet she was at the funeral. So, this time, Laura's stupid proposal popped up, and I don't know what my idiot husband thought, but he decided that Laura would come live with us without even discussing to me about it. This is the conversation I had between my husband a few days after Jack's funeral.
My mother will come over soon. She said she'll bring out a lot of stuff with her, so she told me to tell you to have a room ready for her to sleep in.
Oh, is that so? Is she staying the night? How long is she going to stay at our place for?
Huh? What the heck are you saying? My mother's going to stay with us forever. She's going to live with us from now on.
Okay, please sign this. With that, I brought out the divorce papers I had kept in a drawer to my husband. He was lying on the sofa, but jumped up when he saw that what I had brought out was the divorce papers.
Excuse me? Divorce? Why?
Well, isn't it obvious? Do you have any idea how much Laura has been bullying and harassing me these years? I wanted nothing more to do with Laura, and now she wants to live with us? I really can't believe this is happening. And I'm sick and tired of you deciding such an important thing all on your own without even telling me about it beforehand. Why can't we discuss these important issues as a married couple?
That's because in the end, it'll all be decided with my decision anyways.
What the? Are you saying that you won't listen to what I have to say and what my opinions are at all? Once I heard my husband's true feelings, which completely gave me a shock, my affectionate feelings and love for him was completely gone all at once. I really can't do this anymore. Let's just get a divorce right now.
No, come on. Hold on a second. Divorce is not the right answer.
It means that for you, I'm just there so that I can just obey what you say, right? You're going to just make me do all the house chores and earn money with my job, and then now you'll make me take care of your own mother.
That's not what I meant.
I knew there was no point in talking to Charles about it anymore, since it looked like he's already made up his mind. So I went to my room and began to pack my things. And while I began to pack, I realized that the amount of the things I had was quite smaller than I thought. Come to think of it, Laura came over to my house and tried to mess with everything I had and throw some of my things away without my permission. I seriously hated that. So that's why I sent all my important stuff to my parents' house before. And because of that, I realized that I had spent most of my life as a minimalist at this house. Therefore, even if I was leaving this house, I really didn't even need the movers to move my things, as I can move them all on my own. I could just pack my clothes in my duffel bag, and I would only need one cardboard box for cooking utensils and other things. I put the pans and pots and the utensils in the empty cardboard box. And my husband was looking at me with a panicked look on his face.
Are you really going to leave?
Well, yes, of course.
Please think it over.
I was just deeply shocked by my husband's refusal to apologize for what he had done after all this time. So I just shoved my belongings into the car and left the house and headed for my parents' house. My parents were surprised that I suddenly showed up so late at night, but when I explained the situation and what had been happening to them, they were just so disappointed at Charles. Hearing what had happened, my father said,
"You should just leave him,"
which made me feel a little better. I didn't want to talk to my husband when he called me that day, so I turned off my phone and just got into my bed. Thank God I had the next 2 days off, since it was the weekend. It's really difficult to work in such a state of mind. The next morning, I was really impressed that the breakfast was ready when I woke up and enjoyed my mother's meals. I feel a little better after spending time at my parents' house for the first time in a while. And after I calmed down a little bit, I turned on my phone, thinking that I should be getting a lot of calls by now. Then I saw many incoming calls and text messages from my husband. My husband had apparently went back to Laura's house and had sent me messages.
"I'm currently at my mother's house. I'm helping her pack her things. When you said divorce, you were just being really emotional, so that's why you just lashed out talking about divorce, right? Well, I forgive you now, so just come home soon. My mother also says that there's no way a wife should leave her husband and leave the house like that. Oh, and just to let you know, I tore up the divorce papers. Well, you can stay at your parents' house for a couple of days, so get yourself together quickly and come home soon."
What the hell? Why did Charles tore up the divorce papers without my permission? I really can't believe him. I was so angry that I replied back to Charles as if I was already dealing with a complete stranger. For your information, I am not being emotional, and I am being logical here. The reason I want to divorce you is not just the fact that you said we were living together with Laura. First of all, you quit your job without even telling me. And after that, you did not look for any jobs at all and just stayed at home, relaxing around. And you did no house chores or even tried to help around the house at all. I can already hear your excuse saying that it was because you were depressed, but I know that it's not true, you know. The other day, I happened to meet a colleague of yours. You remember Bill, who was at our wedding, right? Well, he said that the reason you quit was because you had an argument with your boss. Plus, Bill said that you made a mistake and it was your fault. But you went against your boss, who was angry with you for the mistake you made on your own, huh? And yet, you took advantage of the company's strict compliance rules and you lied, claiming you were receiving power harassment by your boss. and then went to the hospital to get the doctor's note to show that you were depressed. What a low-life scumbag you are. Who would want to stay married to such a person like you? I will send you the divorce papers later on, so please make sure you check it and sign them this time. If you don't sign the papers, I will lawyer up and sue you so we can fight in court. It's so refreshing to say all the things I wanted to say to my husband finally. After sending this message, my husband stopped responding to me at all. Then, the day after I sent the divorce papers, I received a message from Charles saying that he had signed the papers and submitted them. It seems that he was quite scared of my text messages. I replied, "Please don't ever contact me again," and blocked Charles's number. As for my ex-husband after that, John told me all about the details. He said that my ex-husband was evicted from his house because he couldn't pay the rent after I left. He then returned to Laura's house and is now an unemployed scumbag and relying all on Laura's pension. And John said that Laura had contacted him and his wife asking for help about Charles. But John has refused to help Laura because he knew that his wife was severely bullied by Laura, and for that, he will never forgive Laura for what she had done. So now, Laura has started working as a janitor in an office building because she has to support her son since her pension is not enough to cover them both. As for Charles, he really couldn't get back into the society and work properly in a company. And because of his terrible lifestyle of not moving around at all, he was diagnosed for having diabetes. Well, both Laura and Charles got what they deserved. I, on the other hand, started dating a colleague from work and got married a year later. And then I got pregnant and we had a baby. Currently, my husband, our son, and I are getting along very well and are having a great time together. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.